Hello, worldies, and welcome back to my naughty little channel. Today, I want to talk about multiculturalism. I did a poll over on my community tab or my posts tab, and that was something that you all want to talk about. And I love talking about this topic because I think it's something that a lot of people where you will see that they are maybe like they're social climbing in so many different ways, but then they're kind of reaching this ceiling. I feel like oftentimes multiculturalism is that thing that kind of breaks through that, figurative glass ceiling, if you want to call it that. And that's because multiculturalism, think of it as more so like a social mobility skill. I will say, if you're taking cues from the unambiguous dark-skinned monoracial Black community, you probably have never thought of multiculturalism in that way, because typically in those types of environments, multiculturalism is thought of as something that you only really pull out when you're trying to date or when you're trying to have smex. Like, we talk so often about how as exoticals, everybody wants to date us, everybody wants to create us. And I feel like especially when it comes to the creating us, there are so many people, whether that be the unambiguous women or men, who their only time that they want to become multicultural is because they're trying to gain some smex out of, somebody who would be the other piece that makes you. But I think, for my worldies, I would much rather you think of multiculturalism and the benefit to learning other cultures as something that expands your opportunities and your social intelligence, in like also your attractiveness, your ability to adapt to different environments and network. And it's definitely going to be tough to dismiss once you really think about this. So often, like, especially when I talk about the social intelligence, so many people make this bad social climbing mistake of not becoming multicultural. And what happens is they have this inaccurate perception of a social conflict or even how they're perceived. Like, there are so many people who maybe they're disliked because they're monocultural, but they think they're disliked because they're Black. Or even things like you think people are judging you, and like you feel like you're experiencing racism, but you're just experiencing maybe xenophobia. Like maybe people are more so having an issue with you because you come from an immigrant background. I see that one a lot. People who don't understand that, and I think one of the main things that keeps people back from multiculturalism to even end up in these situations where they are just kind of not understanding what's going on is because of cultural inferiority and superiority complexes. Like, for example, if somebody comes from an immigrant background and they have this sense of cultural superiority, it's going to make it much harder for you to then learn the information and become culturally fluent to understand certain situations and how you're even being perceived, because you think you're too good to even understand these things, to even learn about another culture. And so maybe you're not experiencing racism, and maybe people are not even, maybe it's not even xenophobia. Sometimes it can be that people are picking up on that you feel like your culture is superior. Like you came to America and feel like you're better than Americans. That's weird. Or even things like people going to travel. Maybe you're traveling over to Europe and you're expecting to be mistreated and all of these things, and you think everybody's racist. And it's like, yeah, people may be racist, but are they being racist towards you? Are you even being perceived as somebody who was like race first? Like, are they looking at you and they're saying, oh, that's a Black person? Or are they looking at you and they're saying, oh, that's American? Because that's a big difference. And I think not understanding these things, they can like kind of make it so people cement these ideas into their mind and these preconceived notions about other people that are just wrong. And it makes it harder to then want to go after opportunities if they involve another community, or take glow up tips or health, fitness, beauty advice from another community because, you feel like you're better than them, or for some people, it's that you feel inferior to them. You feel as though you're like bowing down and kissing their ring if you like eat a similar diet, or if you use similar accessories, or if you do the same type of beauty ritual. You feel some sort of like you're not good enough in who you are. Like you have this sort of insecurity over your own beauty rituals. And so you feel like, in order to kind of try to be defiant and prove that you're not insecure, that you can't learn from anybody else. But then that keeps you stuck, especially if this other culture, all these different cultures around the world, we have swapped information over time through, whether it is slave trades, whether it is just people going around and conquering and influencing each other. And you really are going to put yourself at a disadvantage if you're not trying to access any of this information, because maybe, the culture that you're most familiar with doesn't know as much about a certain topic, but this other culture, their people have been studying this thing for like thousands of years, like millions of years. And well, I don't think humans have even been around for like millions of years, but you know what I mean. You're neglecting this wealth of information just because of your mindset, and it's going to keep you stuck. And I've noticed that some people, they don't notice that they're doing it, but they're accidentally making their lives harder because they're refusing to engage with cultures that they're like already connected to. And I think that is like one of the things that makes people uncomfortable about exoticals, especially when we embrace the cultural connections that we already have. Whether that's growing up around a certain type of people that makes them a part of your culture, that they are now a part of your cultural background. You are not self-hating to recognize how growing up around XYZ people has shaped who you are. Or having a family member who is from a specific culture, whether that is your grandma, your grandpa, your mom, your dad, even if you are not somebody who looks like the spitting image that people think of when they think of people from that culture and from that background, those people are now a part of your background. Like even if it's a best friend and you were always hanging out with this best friend as a child and they're from this culture, and so you were always at their family holidays, or you were always a part of their celebrations, their birthday parties. So you understand certain things like as far as the food, the culture, whatever. That's a part of your background now. And I would say for many people, if you're already looking mixed, you're already looking ambiguous, you already live in a diverse environment, you work around different groups of people, yet you only understand one cultural lens, but then you're going to wonder why, you're struggling socially, professionally, romantically, and even aesthetically. I think monoculturalism keeps people back in so many ways, and they don't understand one of these big points that I have is multiculturalism is largely social intelligence. Because multiculturalism, and I made a video about this a while ago, which about 8 minutes and 20 something seconds. I'll link it up in the cards if I can find the video. But I was talking about how multiculturalism can even have to do with politics as well. It can have to do with wealth. It can have to do with affluence. All of these, cultures are based on, what it can be based on a geographical location. Like growing up on the West Coast, there's a certain culture that comes with that. Growing up in poverty, there's a certain culture that comes with that. Growing up in luxury and in wealth and affluence, like that is another culture. And for many people, when they want to social climb, not understanding these things makes it harder to accomplish their social goals. And even just, even if you're not the type of person who's like, ooh, I'm a social climber, and you just want to be able to get through the day, you're going to come across different cultures throughout the day, and it's going to put you back, especially if you're this type of person, like what you find oftentimes in the unambiguous dark-skinned Black monoracial community, where they think everybody's out to get them, and that's not necessarily the case. So even if they don't want to social climb, They can't even maintain a job. They can't even maintain a relationship. They can't even maintain a friendship or go after, they're too scared to go into the Pilates studio because they feel like they're going to be judged. They're too afraid to go into there, in this place, and they're to go after this opportunity. And they think everybody is judging them off of race when it's not even that. Multicultural people, part of that social intelligence is understanding different communication styles, different values, different family dynamics, different ideas of what success looks like, even different humor. Some people, it's not that somebody is racist. It's that you have a different communication style. It's not that they're, they're colorist or whatever. It's maybe that they have a different humor than you have. Maybe they just had a different family dynamic. For example, I would say a lot of people who grow up in a multicultural background, you may get more surprised when you get older and you hear people who place such a big emphasis on colorism, because maybe there are some people who feel like when it comes to like race and culture, and this is mainly monocultural people, they feel like you have to do away with talking about culture, talking about race, acknowledging that it exists, because they don't have the multicultural background of seeing maybe color being talked about in a positive and endearing way, and in a sweet way, and in a complimentary way. Or the same thing with race. It's never been talked about as something that's been celebrated. They don't know what that is like. So they're constantly on edge when it comes to being around people who are a different race or a different color, or people even acknowledging it. And it's like you may get offended by something where somebody was attempting to express endearment towards you, or they're attempting to like give you a compliment, but you took it as an insult. You took it as racism. You took it as something that it's not, simply because of lacking these social intelligence skills that come with multiculturalism. Being able to understand these different ways of being, ways of having humor, ways of existing in a family, that can help you walk into more rooms comfortably. You can connect with more people, and it makes it easier to read people faster. I find that when you're multicultural, it makes it a lot easier to kind of understand, okay, is this person jealous of me, or do they just not like me? Are they racist, or maybe do we have different values? Are they colorist, or is it just that maybe they have a superiority complex, and I know that is kind of part of their background. Understanding these things makes it easier to not take certain things personal, but I would say to also decipher between what is personal and what is not. What is just a part of a larger issue, a larger background, a larger difference. And understanding those things make it so that you can really social climb and go further. A lot of people don't understand that being multicultural makes you more employable. Like, people talk about the job market this, the job market that. I would say that something I notice amongst my friendships, amongst people in my family, amongst my own life, amongst partners, I notice that the people who seem to struggle a lot more, even in a bad job market, are the people who are monocultural versus the people who are multicultural. And people don't really realize this, but it's a lot like when you're going out for a job, they're not just always looking for your qualifications. What I notice is like, you will see this a lot. I will say that you see this in people who have this Blackistan mindset, people who are these monoracial, monocultural, unambiguous dark-skinned Black people, where they feel like they're overqualified. They feel like they're the most qualified candidate and nobody wants to hire them. Nobody wants to hire them. Like I said before, people could be picking up on your cultural superiority complex. A lot of Black people have this like Black supremacy type of mindset that not everybody is into. Like, not everybody wants to just bow down to you because of slavery happening. Like, oh, now you guys get to be superior for the rest of your lives because people that are not me did something to people who are not you. Like, no, that's not how it works for people. And I think understanding, different races, understanding the cultures that come with different geographical locations, different classes, even different age groups and political affiliations and nationalities, All of those things make it so that you are a good culture fit. You can have somebody where it's two Black people. Maybe they both have all of those. Maybe they benefit from none of the isms. Two Black people who don't benefit from colorism, texturism, or featureism. The person who's usually going to be more employable all the time is the person who can. It's not that they can only connect with their Black coworkers, but they can connect with the white coworkers too, and the Hispanic coworkers, and the Asian coworkers. And if you're like working in a people-facing roles, not only just your coworkers, but maybe the population that you're serving as well, knowing that you understand how to deal with them. You understand the mindsets that come with immigrant families. You understand older people, younger people. You understand people who have different political affiliations and ideas, and you know how to kind of be just a bit more diplomatic about things. So many people don't understand, like, if somebody can pick up on in the interview that you are going to be easily offended by things that are not meant to be offensive, nobody's going to want to hire you. If you feel entitled to offend people, nobody's going to want to work with you. Like, you won't be a fit for the culture. Wherever you're trying to work, they already have some sort of status quo that's going on, and they are looking mainly for people, any job you go for, especially if it's a good quality workplace. They're looking for people who are going to improve the culture. People who are going to come in and they're going to be able to connect people even better. They're going to be even better dealing with conflict than the people who are already there. That's what they're looking for 9 times out of 10. And being able to connect with all of these different types of people, you can connect with Republicans, you can connect with liberals, you can connect with or I should say Democrats, or you can connect with conservatives, you can connect with liberal people or Democrats, Republicans. You can understand people who don't vote. You can understand people who are younger, who are older. You can understand the different cultures that come with a generation, like Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z, the boomers. You may have all of these people in the workplace or people as part of the population that you may be serving or whatever. And being able to connect with all of these people makes it so, wow, you are actually more valuable than somebody who can only connect with people who are like exactly like themselves. People are going to hire people that they feel comfortable around. If you understand what makes this type of person feel comfortable. And it's not always that I feel like a lot of people who are monocultural, because of their monoculturalism, they think of it as like groveling or hiding a part of themselves, versus like when you're multicultural, making people more comfortable around you it doesn't feel like closing yourself off. It feels like opening yourselves up. It feels like showing more of yourself. It feels like, let me show you this part of myself that is genuine, that is authentic. But in this situation, in this context, it's going to help you make a connection with me. It's going to help you see that maybe you're afraid to, nobody's going to hire you if they're afraid to joke around you. Because yes, humor does involve cultural things and cultural differences. And if you're easily offended, people are going to feel uncomfortable around you. Nobody wants to hire somebody where it's like, before you were hired, everybody was able to kind of joke around and, tease each other in a like a playful way. I don't want to say loving at work, but then you come in and then all of a sudden everybody's nervous. Everybody's has to be very stoic because they're so afraid that they're going to offend you when they're not even trying to offend you. I feel like creating this middle ground is very beneficial to your social climbing journey, and multiculturalism helps you with that. People are going to promote people that they feel comfortable around. Some people, they can get their foot in the door, but they are never looked at for advancement. They're never looked at for a promotion because people don't feel comfortable around them. Even when it comes to having somebody want to take you under their wing and mentor you, you're going to miss out on those opportunities when people do not feel comfortable around you. And those are things that are completely invaluable. Things like having a mentor, or even being hired when you're underqualified, but you're a really good culture fit. Being promoted because they see how they can nurture your skills. They see some sort of potential in you, even if you're not qualified, even if you lack the experience. that multiculturalism can be that thing that helps you advance much faster and end up in roles that are even better, and get this information that to somebody else who's monocultural, they may literally have to go to school for a whole new degree. Maybe they already have their bachelor's, they already have their master's, they already have gone through the education system and whatnot, but there's this new skill that they want to unlock. Well, because they don't have the people skills, they don't have the social intelligence to make people comfortable enough to want to mentor them, now they are, the only way they're going to be able to do that is to or to learn a new skill is to go pay money again for that. Versus for you, you got your 1 degree, maybe you got your 2 degrees, and then maybe there's this new skill, this new industry that you're trying to get into. And because of your ability to make people feel comfortable around you, oh, they're willing to pay for the schooling for you now. Or they're willing to just give you the inside trade secrets because of that connection and that rapport that you're able to establish. Another thing with multiculturalism that I don't think people think about is that it helps you make friends faster. You know, a lot of people who are talking about being lonely, and I'm not like, I know I recently made content talking about social loneliness when I'm talking about leveling up. You know, some loneliness is actually cultural isolation that can happen, where if you only know how to connect through like hip hop music, or if you only know how to connect through speaking Ebonics, if you only know how to connect through like a poverty mindset or a lack mindset or like a Blackistan type of mindset, you're going to have fewer opportunities to even socialize. And when it comes to leveling up, you know, that isolation or that cultural isolation or loneliness can be maybe you're accepting that you've been hiding that you are multicultural, and maybe you're in a space where everybody is monocultural. And so maybe to protect, maybe you are isolating yourself away from monoculturalism. You're trying to protect your multiculturalism as you're working on getting closer to making more friends and engaging in more situations, and having access to more opportunities where multiculturalism is the vibe. That is just what happens around everybody else. And I feel like the more cultural languages, and I don't mean specifically languages, although that definitely helps, but understanding the way people speak, what they mean when they're saying this. Maybe they're saying this, but you're aware that, oh, because their first language is such and such, what they really mean is this. Or you're aware that because they grew up over there, when they say this, what they're really trying to communicate is this. The more places are going to feel like home. And that's kind of what friendship comes from. That amount of like emotional intimacy comes from, you know, being able to feel understood and feel like you're understanding somebody else and feel like you have this sense of safety, like you're able to feel like home and a safe place for each other. Another thing people neglect when it comes to multiculturalism is that being multicultural helps you glow up faster. And this is where people start getting really uncomfortable. I mentioned this earlier in the video, but every single culture has beauty secrets. Every culture. Black culture has beauty secrets. White culture has beauty secrets. Hispanic culture has beauty secrets. Asian culture has beauty secrets. Everybody's got beauty secrets. Every single person, whether it is just from their nationalities type of culture or their specific like racial background, any of those things come with beauty secrets. Every culture has style secrets. They have grooming secrets. Why would you ignore them? And some examples of this are things like in Asian cultures. Asian cultures, they're really good when it comes to skincare. When it comes to sun protection, longevity, so aging, and hair care, they're really good at that. And if you have some sort of cultural, inferiority or superiority culture, you will feel weird about going to those cultures to get that information that they already are known for. They already take the cake when it comes to that. You're going to feel some type of way. You know, when it comes to Hispanic cultures, they may be very good when it comes to feminine grooming or beauty maintenance, presentation, even glamour aesthetics. Learning from them If you have some sort of inferiority complex where, it really gets, your knickers in a twist. If you have to grovel to a Latina and figure out how to do this, how to style yourself like this, you're too, stuck in your ways. You're too stubborn to just give somebody their pedestal and then learn from them and then benefit. The way I see it is give the pedestal, get the learning. Don't feel weird about it. Because then you learn that secret, that beauty secret, that grooming ritual, and now you take that with you for the rest of your life. And you look hotter and more amazing for the rest of your life. Or for some of these, you're healthier for the rest of your life. You're fitter for the rest of your life. All because you didn't feel weird about engaging in another culture. Even when it comes to Black culture, a lot of people, they may have some sort of, inferiority complex when it comes to that. But Black cultures are really good when it comes to certain types of hair care and hair styling. Absolutely amazing. Especially when it comes to maybe glamour aesthetics, being laid and slayed all the way, or even understanding trying unique styles, or having body confidence or rhythm, and even beauty innovation like DIY hacks and things like that, doing things at home, or even Caribbean cultures, like the rhythm and the body confidence, things like that. Other cultures may have to borrow and learn from your culture. So do the same thing and make it fun, make it interesting, make it cool. Even European cultures, I will say, can be really good when it comes to fashion, when it comes to tailoring clothes, or elegance aesthetics, or understanding luxury and refinement. Why would you limit yourself? There's no reason. And then this is the thing that I feel this is kind of the point that inspired this video. But I will say what people sometimes neglect is that your face may already have some sort of cultural association. And this is controversial, but people don't meet you as a blank slate. People see your face. And yes, they do create assumptions. And whether that is fair or not, that's kind of irrelevant. It's just reality. People may look at you and they may see, especially if you're an exotical, they're already trying to place you. They already see Black. They already see white. They already see Latina. They may already see Asian. They may already see European or Irish or Swedish, or, they may see something that's already there, and it makes sense to understand all of those. Not because you have to, but because it's useful. I just think that when it comes to social climbing, at least for me, I think that it always helps. For example, if you're the type of person, especially when it comes to skin tone or your features, if you are what people may consider safe brown or something, you're going to have all these different people who may look at you. They already think you're Black and Arab. Maybe you actually are. Whether or not, don't let yourself just be bullied into unambiguous, monoracial, monocultural, Blackness. There's no reason for that, because people they're already going to come to you feeling more comfortable to share certain information with you, or to make you feel at home with them. Or I will say things like people are always coming up to you trying to speak to you in this language. Why are you not just learning the language? There's something there at that point. Enough people have guessed that you're this. Enough people have thought that you're that. Why not? Or people who may be ashamed of their background. I notice this. Sometimes people, if they're biracial, they may feel more confident in one side than the other. And so they don't feel as comfortable learning the beauty secrets, the rituals, the conversation styles, the language of literally half of them. Or it doesn't matter if it's 10% of you, if it's a quarter of you. Why not give yourself that ability to move around different cultures comfortably? Because not everybody has that unspoken advantage. But if you are somebody where you could have that advantage, but you're neglecting to really nurture it, you're just kind of blocking your own blessings at that point. People don't think about how cultural fluency is going to reduce cultural, you could call it cultural friction or social friction. the more you understand certain cultures, you're going to have less, like I said, people trying to come to you speaking a certain language. That's social friction. It's uncomfortable. When somebody's like, oh, I thought you were going to understand me. Or maybe somebody, like, they grab you to help translate or something because they assume that you can and you don't. Like, oh, that's kind of awkward. Or little things like, oh, wow, I thought you would know that, or I thought you would understand. I thought you'd be able to relate. And then you can't. Or even if you don't share the same exact belief, you're like so far removed from cultural fluency that you don't even understand. You're offended by something that wasn't meant to be offensive. It was more so like, oh, no, I just thought you were one of us. I just thought that it's really just that. It makes it so that you can move through different spaces smoothly. And that's a massive advantage that a lot of people don't have. I feel like when it comes to multiculturalism, another thing is that it creates more opportunities. I kind of already touched on this, but people don't understand. One of my big beliefs is that the life that you really want, that you truly desire, it's going to be brought to you from your contact with different people, with different places and different things. And so people don't really understand how the monoculturalism that you're so deeply dedicated to is going to keep you from experiencing and accessing that one mentor that can completely change your life, or that one friend, that one employer, that one opportunity that's going to completely change the trajectory of your life. Because while, there is this way that I think that we have free will, I think that there are also things that are kind of just placed along as an option. Like, almost if you think of that Game of Life board game, it's like I don't really remember exactly all the things about that game, but I definitely remember there were different spaces you can go down, or even thinking about chutes and ladders, where it just completely changes the whole trajectory of the game. Like, now you're looping around over here, or now, oh my God, you were over, you landed on this one space, and now you took this, ladder up, and now you're 3 spaces away from winning. Multiculturalism can literally do that in your life, where it's like a shortcut to winning. Another thing, especially if you're trying to live a softer type of life, is that multiculturalism makes you harder to manipulate. And this is huge. People who only understand one worldview, they're easier to control. Because people are constantly going around, whether it's cultural superiority or especially manipulation, like all of these people who have these, certain traits to them where they're trying to control you, whether this is controlling you and manipulating you through marketing, or if it's through, somebody through a dating context, through a work context, people just attempting to manipulate you and force a certain idea on you. When you're multicultural, you can compare ideas. You can say, oh, well, you view me this way, but this is really only something that, I'm only seen this way in Blackistan. Every other place where I'm able to find a cultural home, I don't have to worry about that. Nobody else cares about this stupid ass thing besides Blackistan. Nobody else cares about this besides poverty culture, besides poor people. Everybody else doesn't care about that. Nobody else cares. And it kind of makes it so that you understand that that's only how your culture sees it. Not everyone sees it that way. That creates this freedom to try new things, to see yourself in a new way, to have confidence, and to just move around and to not feel limited. Because people, especially when they have a crabs in the bucket mentality, they're banking on you being monocultural. They're banking on you, really caring about how you're perceived by poor people, or how you're perceived by the people in Blackistan. When it's like, baby, I don't care. So if you don't care, you're able to have this freedom and this carefreeness that a lot of other people don't have. And a lot of people have this misconception that multiculturalism is self-hatred, when it's not. That's where people get it twisted. People get really confused on this sometimes when they're monocultural. Learning from another culture doesn't mean you're rejecting your own. You can love your culture and still learn from and love others. And the strongest people, that's what they do. The most leveled up people, the people who are able to social climb like this, It's those people who are able to, well, I don't reject my own culture. So like what a lot of people do when it is self-hatred is they reject their own culture in lieu of feeling like other cultures are superior. So even though that, one culture as a part of their background may have these amazing strengths in these different areas, they choose to see zero strengths. And so they're not able to implement and integrate any of those things. That is silly. But I feel like the real level up is like not just becoming more black or more white or more Latina or more Asian, but it's becoming more adaptable. Because being adaptable, even when it comes to like evolution, is that thing that helps you survive. And not only survive, but make it to the point where you're able to thrive. Adaptable people can build networks. They can attract opportunities and they can level up. So the goal isn't to abandon your culture or the culture where maybe you have felt the most at home or where you feel like you have been taught that you will be most easily accepted. It's, like it is like putting an end to this mindset that wisdom only exists inside of one culture. Don't have a cultural superiority or a racial superiority complex. It's going to keep you from leveling up. It is silly. Don't have an inferiority complex because it's going to make you feel some type of way about trying to gain wisdom from other cultures that can really benefit you. Every culture is going to have weaknesses and blind spots. Every culture is going to have strengths. And the people who learn from everyone are usually the ones who end up outperforming the people who can only learn from themselves. So what do you think about this, worldies? Let me know in the comments down below. And until next time, worldies, eyes on the prize.